How
Welcome
are
to the
you?
show.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Sure. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. So my name is Tiffany Esposito. I'm the CEO of the Bonita Springs Area Chamber
Yeah,
of
we've met.
Yes. And this is the Southwest Florida Alliance of Chambers. So
Great.
our group of chambers of commerce in Lee and Collier County, and we represent 7 chambers of commerce, 6,000 businesses, and about 300,000 residents and constituents. And these candidate interviews, we are recording them, and we intend to post them on our website so that we can assist in educating our community on the candidates and the issues.
Great.
So thanks again for being with us.
Sure. Hi, Jenna.
Hi, how are you?
We'll go real quick and just have everybody introduce themselves,
Great.
and then we'll start asking you a few questions. We are asking all of the candidates the same questions.
Got it.
So Colleen, then Donna, then Jenna, then John.
Good morning. My name is Colleen DePasquale. I'm with the Greater Fort Myers Chamber of Commerce, and thanks for being with us this morning.
Hi, I'm Donna Germain. I'm President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Cape Coral. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Hi, David. Nice to see you. Jenna Bazalka with the Greater Naples Chamber.
Good morning, David. Thanks so much for joining us again. My name's John Lai. I'm the President and CEO of the Santa Monica Captiva Chamber of Commerce.
Great.
Awesome. So David, if you want to kick us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a retired business person up until last April. I was in a financial planning practice with my wife, Streeter. That practice continues under her fantastic stewardship. And I've been involved both as a business person, an entrepreneur, and very involved in the community, both as a volunteer and as a senior staff member for most of my adult life. I was the Democratic nominee for Congress in 2018, running against Francis Rooney, and it's an open seat this year, and decided it was important that the issues that we talked about in 2018 are still important. And I would frame the issues as I see them this way. We're in the midst of 4 interlocking crises of health, economy, environment, and racial justice. And they all have fed each other, and they all exacerbate each other, and the solutions are going to have to touch each area deeply. And, you know, I'm not seeing leadership either at the national level or from the state administration that I think are adequately addressing the problems that we face. And none of these are new, except the pandemic. They have ripened for a variety of reasons, and now's the time to make some real change.
Awesome. Thank you. What prompted you to run for office?
As I said, I've always been involved in the community. My parents were very active in the civil rights movement when I was growing up, and advocating to end the Vietnam War. So, you know, I thought going to an anti-Vietnam War rally with my mom was a play date. So I just grew up with that. And I was, you know, my parents were very involved with scouting, as I was in the YMCA. So that's just kind of the air I breathed growing up, and got involved politically as a young person, and have stayed interested, if not directly involved, ever since. And I felt after the 2016 elections that the country was really on the wrong path, and I needed to get involved more directly, and here we are. And it's been a great experience.
Awesome. And in your opinion, what makes you qualified to represent the business community?
Well, as I said, I'm a former business person myself, and a former financial planner. So, you know, my daily bread is dependent on free markets and the capitalist system. And I think, and I know that, you know, capitalism and a market-driven economy has created more wealth for more people than any other system in human history. But like any powerful force, it needs to be balanced, right? If you read Adam Smith, unfettered free markets can become dangerous left to their own devices. And we see that, you know, time and again, when thoughtful protections are not implemented, markets tend to do things that are not good for working Americans. So I think I have a balanced perspective. I understand business. I think business is how we're going to grow our economy, how we're going to give folks in Southwest Florida greater opportunity. But I also think that protections have to be built into that system.
Awesome. In your opinion, what's the most pressing issue facing the Southwest Florida business community? And if elected, what would you do to address this issue?
So the long-term greatest challenge is environment, right? If we're not active immediately, we're going to be literally underwater vast portions of this district. This is a district that runs entirely along the coast and is dependent on clean water and clean air. And if we don't have those things, we're just going to cease to, you take away tourism and you take away the things that attract people to move their families here, and we're just Kansas without wheat. So, that's number one. But immediately, and for a long time to come, it's going to be the pandemic. And if you look at any of the metrics, we are not doing a good job in Florida.
Okay. So as you know, the Southwest Florida economy is heavily dependent on leisure and hospitality sectors. So if elected, what would you do to encourage economic diversification in the region?
So if you look, I'm a history buff, so bear with me. If you look at what Florida did in the 60s and 70s and 80s, we had a string of thoughtful governors who really understood that in order for Florida to thrive, we had to diversify our economy, and great strides were made in that area. And then, the state changed politically and chose different leadership, and we moved away from that. So we are dependent, heavily dependent on tourism and leisure and entertainment, not so much on agriculture as we once were, but still a huge part of our economy. And not a lot of other stuff. We've got a string of wonderful higher educational institutions in Florida, but we're not keeping those young people here. And if you don't have to look any further than Collier and at Arthrex, a company created here, has generated tremendous wealth and wonderful, high-paid, high-skilled jobs. Had to move, I think 200 plus jobs to South Carolina because we weren't addressing workforce development and workforce housing. And, we should not be losing jobs to South Carolina. We should be taking jobs from South Carolina. So as there's a federal component to how we develop this. And of course, there's state and local components. But from the federal level, I think we have to focus some education resources on vocational training. We used to do a very good job of that in the US. We don't do as good a job of it now anywhere, and certainly not here in Southwest Florida.
Thank you. So you mentioned the environment and obviously our water quality a few times. And this group, the Alliance of Chambers, was formed in the wake of the 2018 water crisis. And water quality has been our #1 priority and remains our #1 priority. So if elected, what specific projects would you advocate for to improve and protect our waterways?
Where do you begin? Let's begin with what's close to home, Lake Okeechobee and the runoff and the terrible environmental and economic impacts of a system that is just not doing the job properly. That water, one way or the other, has to flow south again in a much more abundant way than it has been. And we have brought, I have to say, Congressman Rooney, a very different member in his second term than his first term. He really kind of turned himself around on environmental issues and some other issues and was able to bring some dollars here. But the holding tanks are really holding actions. We have to develop and fund a much broader Everglades restoration plan. The one that was passed in 2000 is just not adequate to what's going on today. And it was based on data that was really out of date, even at the time that the plan was created. I think that's got to be our focus, because if we can alleviate the outflows, the impact of the toxic algal blooms, we can go a long way towards addressing the problems that we have.
Great. So elaborating on that a little bit, what specific actions do you think lawmakers should take to improve and protect Southwest Florida's waterways?
As I said, I think it is upgrading the Everglades restoration planning. It's making sure that resources are there consistently. We've had a situation where money's available, then it's not available, then it is available. This is it's the largest engineering project in history, if I am well informed, and that has to have consistent funding. But I also think we need to look at the larger issues of environmental, collapse and climate change, which means we have to start changing how we get our energy, how we do agriculture. Agriculture has a huge impact on the environmental degradation in Florida. So, I've looked very closely at the Evergreen Action Plan, which was first put forward by Washington Governor Jay Inslee. It's like 74 pages. It's dense. There's a lot of very good, very thoughtful, very detailed policy recommendations that I think I will be looking at very closely as a member of Congress.
Thank you. So one last question. Is there anything else you'd like us to know about you or your priorities?
Nobody ever asked that. I come to this out of a sense of service to the community. In 2018, I had a number, and since then, a number of conversations with Mike Dalby of the Naples Chamber, and I aligned myself and supported the sales tax increase for critical infrastructure expansion and restoration, and I'm thrilled that we had some small part in helping that pass. And I think that the Republican Party has failed to grow with the times in Southwest Florida. For the Collier Republican Party to take a official position in opposition of a critical tax increase, speaks to a lack of curiosity about what's going on in the world. So I want to be somebody who listens very closely, who works across boundaries. That's something I've always done in my life. Yes, I'm a Democrat, but I'm also a business person and a capitalist. And I think that this community, which is very diverse and changing rapidly, needs leadership that is willing to sit down, have difficult conversations across boundaries, and find solutions that really meet the needs of everyone in the community.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We'll be putting these on our website and on all of our websites, and we wish you luck in the election.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. Take care.
Okay.